Commissioner
Scagliotti.
Here.
Commissioner Benito, I'm here. Commissioner Odessa.
Here.
Commissioner McCullough.
Here.
Commissioner Castro. Now, I just wanted to mention too, there are 3 vacancies on the commission. And another, excuse me. Commissioner Groen.
I'm here.
I don't think your mic's on.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, and can we have an approval of the certificate of posting? It was posted?
Posted, we just need a motion.
Oh, okay, can we have a motion for that? Motion. Okay, I see Commissioner Sergio and a second by, yes, Commissioner Scott. All in favor, say aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. From there, we'll go on to public comment.
If you'd like to make a comment on Zoom or in chambers, please provide a speaker card on Zoom. You can press *9 on your phone or the raise hand icon on your screen. No public comment.
No public comment. Thank you, Vanessa. From there, we'll move on to the regular agenda and the nomination and election of a new chairman and vice chairman. Do we have any nominations for a new chairman? Any nominations for vice chairman? I nominate, well, I'm not going to speak to that. So, Tim, any thoughts?
For vice chair, I nominate Marty McCullough.
Marty, do you accept the nomination?
Yes.
Is there any discussion, or do we have a second for that nomination? Sergio, I see a second with Sergio. Is there any discussion? From there, we will go to a vote. All those in favor of Marty McCullough as vice chairman, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Vote is unanimous. Congratulations, Commissioner Vice Chairman McCullough. From there, we will go to the chairman. Go back to the chairman. Are there any nominations for chairman? Okay. Okay.
Tom Nino.
Okay. Commissioner Garcia has nominated Tom Nino. I accept. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I see a second by Commissioner Scott. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Thank you very much. From there, we'll move on to approve the minutes of the May 8th, 2023 special meeting and the July 24th, 2023 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes? We have a motion by Commissioner Garcia. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We'll have a second by Commissioner Growling. Am I saying your name correctly?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion regarding that? All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
I see all ayes. It's unanimous. None opposed. Motion passes. At this point, I think because it's kind of relative to what we just went through, I just want to give a little, maybe hopefully this is an appropriate time for me to do this, but I want to just speak to a little bit of those minutes and what happened at the special meeting and so forth. And one of those things, and I just kind of visited with Commissioner Dess about that, and one of the items was about the San Justo Reservoir. And what happened with that is we had spoken of the San Justo Reservoir, and we had that special meeting with a lot of information about that, and Assemblywoman Lofgren was in attendance through the Zoom and pledged her support and so forth. A short time after that, I received a call from, perhaps it was Vanessa, I'm not sure, and there was a administrative officer that wanted us to speak, us being the San Benito County Fish and Game Commission, regarding the reservoir. So we said, okay, Mr. Scagliotti and I met at the reservoir and with some water district officials and so forth. And we spoke, I spoke, and you were in attendance, I think?
Yeah.
In attendance at the Board of Supervisors meeting. Now, it was a little bit of an uncomfortable situation because I couldn't speak for all of us because we hadn't voted on anything. And I can't speak for Mr. Garcia. He hasn't voted on anything, or Mr. McCullough or anything else. So I said right up from the start that we don't have an official motion on this. We don't have a platform. We don't have an agenda. This is just I think it's a real asset to our county and our community. And if we can consider ways to potentially open it. It's been closed since 2008, something safely and equitably for everybody. I thought that would be a benefit. And one idea of trying the potash. Now, if maybe it doesn't work, there's a thought that maybe it won't work. There's a potential treatment with potash. And it would be safe. It's especially harmful to the zebra mussels, but not harmful to other fish, according to this report here. Anyway, that was kind of the nature of that. Was I never made anything other than that. It was kind of my opinion. What happened is that one of the supervisors felt a little bit maybe I was speaking. How come you're speaking your opinion here? What about the commission? I said we haven't voted on it, but they asked me to speak. So I just wanted to let everybody kind of know what happened. I'd never speak for you guys when we haven't voted on anything. We didn't have any an official agenda on it. After that time, Mr. McCullough and I met with our supervisor and let her know exactly what had happened and how it kind of went down. And she was unaware of kind of all the dynamics behind it. She was also very interested. I know I just spoke with Mr. Odessa about, that's just a jewel there. And if there's any way if there's any way to have that reservoir usable by the public, I'm not saying while there's still mussels there, maybe it's treated, the mussels are not eradicatable, then maybe that's a done situation. I don't know. That's not my call, but it's just something I think that's worth talking about since it's been going on since 2008. Another thing that I liked, that I thought about, and when I read this report, and I hadn't, this is a big, the equitability of opening that reservoir. There's a lot of people that can't afford to go different places and go fishing or go on trips or this or that, and the fact that everybody in our county could have access to it if it ever were able to be opened and safe and so forth. That just seems that would have to be after the zebras were eradicated. But I just wanted to give a little background there while we're here. So I hope that's acceptable. And does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, thank you for hearing me out, and I appreciate that. Let's go to item on the regular agenda 4C, update on the selling of bobcat pelts at the Renaissance Fair in 2022.
Online we have Mr. Strauss, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. So selling Pelta, the Renaissance Fair, really, unless there's trapping, which there hasn't been any trapping associated with it in the state, or importers license associated with it, you really can't sell it in the state of California. So there would have to be under Title 14, 479, I believe. I can look it up real quick for you. Just bear with me one sec. Yes, basically you can't sell the both, from what I'm reading. Unless you have a permit of where the animal was taken and you have a receipt of sale that was there. But from what I'm reading, it doesn't appear that you can unless they have all those items. Okay. You guys have any questions about
Hey, my name is Robert Growling. I'm representing the 5th District here, and I was one of the ones that questioned this initially. From what I understand, there were no pellets being sold there this year.
Okay. So, because under 479, of the Title 14. I mean, it gives a whole specific section of it being sold. But so I guess the question I have for it is, so there are none being sold then at this year currently at the Renaissance Fair.
I was there and there were no pellets being sold that I could see.
Oh, very good. So, but do you guys want me to do? What else would you guys like to know about that?
I'm sorry. What about that in particular, or any other items? Anything that you could speak to that you think would be apropos to our discussion would be?
So I give an update too, then what's going on?
Perfect. That'd be great. Thank you so much.
Okay. Right now we got 2 new officers in the area out of Monterey and Santa Cruz counties. It's been a little bit slower time of year, but we've still been making cases, some hunting cases near San Benito and in San Benito County. I think the rain is going to have an effect on it, and I think this is a little bit of a slower time of year. However, it doesn't really stop. So, the warden that we have out of San Benito County and Hollister area just had a baby, so he's out probably till the end of the month. But all in all, we still have people going and covering the area, and it's been busy as of till the end of December. It's been very busy all over the place. So we had multiple trainees that came through and multiple citations were written, whether it be hunting or even fishing. So that's the gist of what we have going on in Monterey, San Benito County. And it's been a very good year for us. Officers done a good job. So that's what I have sort of for an update, unless you guys have specific questions.
Any specific questions?
No, I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for your report. Appreciate you. Okay, from there we will go on to receive an update on the waterway cleanup efforts after the winter storms.
Sorry about that. Good evening, Commissioners. Steve Lute, Public Works Administrator for the county. And I'll be providing some cleanup specifically for some segments of Pacheco Creek, and then I'll kind of give you just a brief overview of the county and some other efforts that have been ongoing since the storms that occurred about a year ago. So to give you a little bit of background, Pacheco Stormwater District it's a small district that has jurisdiction between Lover's Lane and downstream. Well, I'll start at San Felipe Road. From San Felipe Road downstream for about a mile along Pacheco Creek, the Pacheco Creek Stormwater District has jurisdiction of that area. And the county gave that district a loan to do 2 things. 1, debris cleanup within that stretch of the creek, and 2, levee repairs. So there's 5 primary locations of some pretty large debris piles. I'll show you some photos in a minute. That at 4 of the 5 locations of these debris piles, there was actually a levee breach during the last set of storms last year. So very good chance that these debris piles contributed to the levee breaches themselves. So step 1 for that stretch was to remove the debris piles. And step 2 now is repair the levees. And so this first location that we're looking at is a photo that we took from the Lovers Lane bridge over Pacheco Creek, and the debris piles move upstream from there. So this was debris pile number 1 before the cleanup, and there it is after the cleanup. The nice thing about pretty much all these debris piles is they were deposited on these sediment silt bars, and so we didn't have to actually go into the creek much at all, really. We could stay on the sandbars and just extract the debris, so we didn't actually go into the active channel of the creek. We actually performed this. Governor Newsom actually gave us a permit, an emergency debris and sediment removal permit that anyone in the state could use. So that's a permit that these activities were performed under. So location number 2, it's kind of hard to get some perspective with photos and debris piles, and I don't have the county doesn't have a drone, so that's debris pile number 2 before and after, and I'll show you some overall kind of results in a minute of how much debris was extracted. But location number 3, before and after. Location number 4. Well, actually, so what I did was I took a photo with our truck just of location debris removed from locations number 2 and 3, just to give you an idea of how much debris was in the creek just in those 2 locations. So that's that photo. And then location number 4 was actually the one that concerned me the most, because it was a few hundred feet long and almost all the way to the low flow channel of the creek, and quite extensive. So that was before, that's after.
Mr. Loop, where was that? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but
Sure.
just
So location number 4, it was almost roughly halfway between Lovers Lane and San Felipe Road on the south side of the creek. And this is also real near the location where in 2017 there was a breach. So it's, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah, you bet. And so that's after, and I should have panned out a little bit more because actually it was even a larger area, but looks a lot better. And location number 5, this was also a location of probably, it was interesting. This was one of the smaller debris piles. It was pretty dense, but it resulted in the largest breach of the levees. So that's after. And then I think I have a photo of, yeah. So for 4 and 5, you can see pretty large dump truck on the left, and that's debris removed from locations 4 and 5. So good news, the debris removal for that stretch of the creek, and that was where the main large debris piles are located. The entire creek could, needs assistance, I'll say, but those were the largest debris piles when we walked through the creek in that stretch of the Pacheco Stormwater District. Those were the largest debris piles that we found. And now, actually, that whole stretch it actually looks like a functioning creek now, fortunately. So now we're into the levee repair phase. There's essentially 4 locations of levee repairs. 2 of the locations have been repaired, and one of the third one, which is actually the largest, is about halfway repaired. And then there's a 4th one that's it's about 25 feet wide and maybe 5 feet deep. It's kind of a small location. So that location also has to get repaired. But even those 2 locations that aren't fully repaired, they're already restored up to within about 6 or 7 feet of the top of the levee, but we have to finish that top part. And before we do that, we're going to be putting riprap at the toe of the levee to try to stabilize it a bit. So that's where we're at. In addition to that, and I'll just kind of walk you through a few other things we've been working on with various funding sources. Over near Swank Farms and Highway 156, we actually teamed with Caltrans, and I think the county spent, I don't know, about 80 grand, and we completely cleaned out this double box culvert and added some riprap there as well. And our crews have been kind of working as they can at various locations, a lot of low water crossing locations. We've been cleaning up debris throughout the county. We're in the process of looking at renting a small bobcat because a lot of the bridges, our backhoes can't quite get underneath the bridge, and so it's difficult for us. And so we've been looking at renting like a real small bobcat, kind of like height's about 6 or 7 feet, so that we can kind of go under the bridge and knock out some of those last debris locations. And so I'll pause there for questions.
I have a question. Are we getting any financial assistance from FEMA on any of this stuff?
So, excellent question. For the debris piles, we received a bit of good news about a week ago. We actually had Zoe Lofgren, the congresswoman, called the head of FEMA for our region because the Pacheco Stormwater District, where we've been performing a lot of these activities, or all these activities in the photos, and the levee breaches, which is the bulk of the activities. It was formed in the 1940s, I think 1946, and so, but it's been active on and off over the years for different reasons. Well, the county worked with the district to make it more active recently. And so when these breaches occurred and we've discovered all this debris, because it's all on private property essentially. All this Pacheco Creek is basically private property, it's not county property. But working with the district, we submitted a bunch of legal documentation to FEMA, and 9 months later, from when we submitted it, literally last week, they said, okay, the district is a legal district. What that allows is, now we can submit our invoices and activities and things that we've been working on, because the loan and the loan to the district was from the county to the district was 1.7 million. Just on the debris, I think we've spent about $800,000. And so now we can submit that to FEMA and they will consider reimbursing us, which sounds silly, but it's actually a really big step for the water district. So TBD on that, and as well as the levee repairs. FEMA's actually made some progress, and they think the last bit of levee repairs, well, they think they're going to give us approximately $300,000. It's not officially allocated to us, and that will cover the amount of money we need for the levee repairs. And we're in a further step on that. We're out of maybe 10 steps, we're on step 9 for that $300,000 reimbursement. For the debris removal, we're probably on step 3 or 4. But the good news is they actually acknowledge the district as a legal functioning district, which allows us to submit the invoices for FEMA reimbursement. So TBD, but we're making progress. I'll say that. So.
Are we doing this work ourselves as the county, or are you bringing in independent contractors to?
We have helped with one of the levee repairs. Otherwise, it's been contractors, and they're more efficient, and they have better equipment and bigger equipment and things of that nature. A lot of the debris removal, you need a real big excavator to reach in and grab it and pull it out, and we don't have we don't have any excavators actually. So, yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any plan to maintain that stream bed from here on out so it doesn't happen again?
Excellent question. Yes, the district now, there's 3 trustees that were just elected a year ago, and we've been working with them to come up with some best management practices for the stream so that we can apply for a stream bed maintenance permit with Fish and Wildlife. And so yes, there's works in that regard. A separate path, the county has a grant where we can get some kind of a blanket permit for certain areas throughout the county, and this will be one of them. We're going to go the whole stretch of Pacheco Creek, wherever we think there might be some maintenance activities that occur in the future. We're going to use this grant to kind of give us a blanket maintenance permit. we still have to get the stream bed or the stream bed maintenance permit from Fish and Wildlife, but having this other authorization will kind of help those two work together, I'll say. So we're trying. It's again, it's all private property, so it's a little tricky, and there's a lot of property owners through that whole stretch. Goes all the way past Casa de Fruta, and a lot of property owners, but the county's trying to work with those folks as best we can. So, yeah.
Now, will that, I mean, can you use that for other stream beds as well? I mean, San Benito River and
So
Vespasias Creek?
the process is similar. So we're looking at it as a county to, at the very least, we want to get that blanket permit from Fish and Wildlife for all of our bridge crossings. But again, it's kind of a location-specific agreement. So Fish and Game won't say, we'll give you this maintenance agreement for all your waterways in the whole county. You have to delineate them and describe them, and so it kind of helps to go in segments of waterways, so like per creek or per river. And again, there'll be certain areas that we'll apply for as a county for the river, San Benito River, and perhaps Santa Ana Creek in certain spots, but we can only apply as a property owner. Like even Pacheco Creek, we're gonna help them, but they're gonna have to apply because they're the entity that has jurisdiction over that. The county has jurisdiction where, like, a lot of our bridge crossings creeks, but in the creek themselves, it's still a lot, almost exclusively owned by private property owners. So we'll help anyone if they want to apply for those stream maintenance agreements with Fish and Wildlife. But for the county, it'll be at all our bridge crossings, because we actually don't have, a permit for all those activities. One silver lining with these last bit of storms is that all the permitting agencies have been willing to allow public agencies to do cleanup efforts, because they understand that there's been a lot of debris and a lot of deposition from the last set of storms. But moving forward, we have to apply for those, like a permanent stream maintenance agreement for kind of all our bridges over our creeks and rivers. So we're doing that ourselves. But
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? I see anything else you'd like to add?
Not tonight.
Okay. Thank you for all your efforts, and appreciate you being here as well.
Thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
From there, we will go to commissioner reports. No discussion on these items shall occur, but the commission may direct any of the reports to be agendized for a future meeting. So if any commissioners have any things they would like to discuss, or excuse me, at a future meeting that they wanted to have agendized tonight. Seeing none, we will go on to agency reports. Maybe before we start that, I want to apologize. Earlier I said Assemblywoman Lofgren, but it's actually, as Mr. Loop says, Congresswoman Lofgren. So anyway, sorry about that. Congresswoman Lofgren. From there, we'll go to agency reports.
We have Mr. Strauss from Fish and Wildlife. He already gave his report earlier, so.
Okay. And how, from the Bureau of Land, maybe we'll go to Pinnacle since and then, yes. And we really appreciate your being here and your attendance. You're always here, and we really appreciate that, and thank you for that. You always have a lot to add, so thank you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate coming and appreciate what you all do for the county for us. So, I am not in uniform because I just got back, or literally on the way back from the Sacramento International Sportsman's Expo that was going on for the last 4 days. So I was part of a booth there that is helping folks make that switch to non-lead ammunition. So obviously with Pinnacles and the Condor, ammunition was something that we wanted to talk to hunters and ranchers about. So we've been doing that since 2008. And so we've got a booth there that we're part of with something called the North American Non-Lead Partnership. And that's just a bunch of different state agencies, as well as state fish and game agencies, as well as industry experts, and other groups like Ducks Unlimited and those types, that are trying to help folks with that transition. So we had a booth there with ballistic gels, looking at the different wound channels for different bullets. We test everything, all the non-lead ammunition, from the standard Barnes TTSX all the way out to hand load hammer bullets. So looking at everything, trying to help folks with that if they're having a hard time with it, or tell us the stories if it's working for you, all that kind of stuff. So it went really well. Probably the most kind of sort of contacts we've had since pre-pandemic. We've been at that show since 2010. And the pandemic obviously kind of messed with attendance for all those, and it seems like it's finally getting back to normal. So lots of great conversations, and lots of positive things from folks talking about their stories, their transition to using copper for centerfire rifles and stuff, and then a handful of folks that are still having a hard time with it. And like I said, since we test everything, we can really kind of dial that in for them and figure out what might not be working for them and how we can make that switch for them. So that was good. The park itself, not too much that would sort of affect you all here. We're still looking to hire some law enforcement on the west side of the park, so we're still advertising for that. Down a few positions there. The one sort of wildlife related thing, well, I guess two. So we just did our Christmas bird count, which is something that happens across the whole country, but it's an annual count of basically every bird that you possibly can. Had a lot of folks come out and volunteer for that. Seems like we had really good numbers this year, including probably some of our highest waterfowl numbers that we've seen, and that kind of tracks with some of the stuff I'm seeing. I mean, Piscina's Reservoir, I've never seen so many canvasbacks out there, which is cool. So good numbers there. The weather was on our side for that, so that was good. And then the other thing is we have, I think I've talked about this before, part of my job as a wildlife biologist out there is working on our invasive species, and we've got 33 miles of fence around the park to keep pigs out. We eradicated pigs from inside that area, which is just about 25,000 acres. And until last year, we were pig-free. We'd never had a problem, but we had a breach with some so a hole in the fence, and we have our first pig that is bouncing around there. So finally got a pig back in the park, which means I have something to do at night now. We've got a lot of wildlife cameras, and confirmed it's just a young male, so we're not too worried about that population growth inside there. But if we get another breach, we could have a female in there, and you guys all know how pigs breed. So we're trying to jump on that as soon as we can. And getting our traps going and stuff, but we do have one pig back in the park, so we got that going for us. Any questions or thoughts or anything?
About 9 months ago, you had, or maybe it was 6, I can't remember, you mentioned the numbers at the park and how rapidly they were increasing over the years. Is that still happening that way? Has that leveled off or tailed off, or could you speak to that?
Yeah, good question. I would say it's leveling off. I think we're still seeing a bit of a climb, but the biggest switch for us was that name change. When we went from a national monument to a national park, that really shifted visitorship for us. And I think that has continued to rise, but not at quite the steep climb that we saw initially back then. But yeah, it's still going up. And yeah, we see that. So, and that's part of where our hiring issues are coming from, is we need more folks working in the park to handle that many more people. So, I guess one thing with that, we tend to only clean out our backcountry pit toilets every 15 years, and that number has needed to kick up a bunch. So we just did our flights with all of that. That was a lot of fun. Making a slurry out of that and pumping it out and then flying it out with helicopters. But that's probably those types of things that used to be once a decade are probably going to have to kick up a notch more. So
Very good. Any questions?
Yeah, how's condors doing? Have you seen any more lead poisoning or?
Yeah, we still do, which is one of the reasons I still go out and do that
Right.
that ammunition outreach. So two sides of that story, right? Which is one, having done this type of outreach for a long time, we have seen the numbers of people who are sort of self-reporting. Yeah, I use copper. Those numbers are going way up, particularly after the law that went into effect in 2019. With that, though, these are social feeding animals. So if you've got one poaching incident, or one depredation type thing that somebody was using lead when they shouldn't have been, lots of birds on one carcass. So we're still seeing lead poisoning pretty consistently, unfortunately. So it's still a major issue, and it is still the leading cause of death for condors. And when I say we, I mean the broader biology community, when we look at other scavengers, we see the same ingestion route, and we see the same type of poisonings with other species like bald eagles, golden eagles, turkey vultures, ravens. The thing with the condor is that we've got every single individual in that species, literally the whole species is tagged, so we know when one of them dies, we can get a necropsy pretty quick. So we have a really good idea of what's killing every bird in that species. We don't have that kind of information for species like bald eagles or turkey vultures. If those birds die in the backcountry, nobody knows, and nobody knows why. So when we have started looking at blood levels in other scavengers and other raptors, we see the same things. So it's still an issue.
Now, on your bird count, have you seen, those numbers of the vultures and the bald eagles, have they gone up? Are they steady? I mean,
Yeah,
I
good.
wonder if they're just declining with the same deal.
Yeah, and so that, and this is it's a complex issue, right? And so for those species, we see lead poisoning, but because of their reproductive strategies, we don't see the same population decline that we saw with the condor. So with a condor, you've got a bird that takes 8 years to mature, and then it lays one egg, and it raises that chick through the next breeding season. And then maybe they lay another egg. So for a pair of condors to replace themselves, takes 12 years just to keep that population steady. You need another 2 years of pure success to get any positive population growth. So they only have one egg at a time. Compare that to, say, something like a turkey vulture, where they're breeding within 3 years and they're having a clutch of multiple birds. So for other species, because of their reproductive strategy, we don't see that same massive population decline like we did with the condor. So for the condor, it's just a 1-2 punch. They're a strict scavenger, so they're stuck eating carrion, and they breed very, very, very slowly. And so that's why we see major issues at a population level with condors that we don't see with, say, bald eagles, even though we do see the same ingestion routes and lead levels in some of those birds. They just breed faster, basically, so they can replace themselves.
Avian flu vaccinations?
Yeah. Oh, great point. Yes. So we are kind of, as you would imagine, highly pathogenic avian influenza came through, and it was found in San Benito County not that long ago, in a poultry flock. Which means it's probably in the wild flock too. We have been testing for it as much as we can. So far, have not found it in any of the Central California condors. You may have read about it in the news. The Arizona population of condors, I mean, it just wiped them out. They lost. Looking at the numbers, they lost 20 years worth of work with that population in 1 year because HPI just ripped through them. So the condors are quite susceptible, much like many other avian species. So we're pretty worried about it. And because of that, the whole condor program, not just Pinnacles, granted a special permit to create a vaccine for it. So I won't get into all the details of why that was a huge deal, but it was a huge problem to try and even create a vaccine for it. We did get that, and we are using that vaccine on the condors. It went through the trials in captive populations, and it looked really good. So yeah, we're quite hopeful that if we can get them pumped full of that thing before they get it in the wild, then our population will be protected from it. So it's looking hopeful.
Thank you.
Any other questions? once again, I just want to reiterate how much we appreciate you and your information and your presence and your being here and all the work that you do. Thank you very much.
Yep, happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
No other agencies.
No other agencies to report. Vanessa, as we said earlier, and I appreciate you very much. I know you do a wonderful job with the communication. Maybe a phone call in addition to the emails and a letter might be helpful, and maybe that'll be a nice reminder, and we can have more wonderful input like we just had. So, not trying to put more on you, Vanessa, but maybe that'll be. Thank you very much for that. Well, I think that's it, unless there's anything else for the good of the order. Anybody else has anything they'd like to discuss? Questions, concerns? Okay. With that, if I could have a motion to adjourn. Commissioner Scagliotti with the motion and Commissioner Odessa with the second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of adjournment? Say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes.